Welcome to Live Action Star Wars. I'm James.
I'm Ralph.
I almost forgot how to do the intro to the show. But today we are talking about Andor Episode 4, Aldhani. We got an
Right.
episode title right at the start. We didn't need to wait a few days for it this time.
Yeah.
But
I'm not doing it on the artwork anyway, so I like how our artwork looks.
It looks clean. It looks nice. I'm a big fan of it. It's really good. But yeah, Aldhani. I figured by having it as a weird title of a word that I didn't recognize that it was going to be like a new planet, and I was right. That is exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if this is the planet where we see the Star Destroyer overhead, because we got no flashbacks.
I think it might be. Yeah, we didn't. That's a good point, actually. I didn't even think about that. We didn't get any flashbacks, did we? And the stuff that the sort of the rebel crew on there are wearing still looks quite rugged. And like in like the shots from the trailers that I can remember, it looks like it could have easily been mistaken for the planet in the flashbacks.
Me and Alex brought it up when we did the breakdown of the trailer, but like sort of the AK-47s.
I was gonna say I've got a note that just says Space AK-47.
Yeah, I get it. They have a more primitive technology and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks just like the Earth gun. Like
it
they didn't
really
do
does.
any sort of modification to it to make it look different. Like the Stormtrooper guns they took like real
kit bashed
guns and then they kit bashed them.
Yeah.
So, but this one they just flat out look like regular old guns.
Yeah, it does just look like a model of AK. It's funny though because
it's like a design, like it's like the perfect design, I guess, for a weapon. But
I think because of like the connotation that we have with that weapon in this world, that I don't know, these days it's mostly like guerrilla fighters. We think of AK-47s as this like passed on. Maybe it was military at one point, but it's been sold and then resold and then resold, and it's this sort of rugged guerrilla warfare weapon. So to see it in the hands of these guys, it's sort of just a visual cue to go, that's what these guys use. They don't use the high-tech newest stuff. They use what they can get.
But like if the clip shape was different, or if it went a different direction, or if they put like just a scope on it or something,
anything.
Yeah, I was just like one part. Just do it one part, because it's just so I don't care.
No, I don't care. But I did notice it. I did make a note about it. Because it is really just like straight up. It makes me go. I'm looking forward to seeing it fire, because if it's a slug thrower, then it's just like, oh come on, guys, you've done nothing. But I'm assuming that it'll fire lasers of some sort.
You think so?
I think so. It's still Star Wars. I don't know if it'll be. I think every time they've done a slug thrower in this universe so far, it's been like a long rifle. It's been a big long, like the Tusken rifle or something like that.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I'm sure that we'll get to that next week. This one really felt like an Act 1 again, though. Like it's like the second arc, but it's Act 1 of that next arc. So we set up stuff with Mon Mothma. We set up stuff with Cassian, or what's he going under now? His alias Kleb. Yeah. Great name. Just sounds like he just coughed a little bit, and that's what came out.
Yeah. It's but you know what? I like it. I like that it's a whole new chapter. We're getting into Star Wars little by little. We get Coruscant, we get TIE fighters, and
we get what we didn't get at all in the first 3 episodes, which was a hell of a lot of Easter eggs and like mentions of things.
Okay, so I just watched it the once.
Yeah, I have only watched it once so far.
I'm assuming that Lothan's artifact room is just full of. I know it reminded me of Dryden Voss's yacht
very much, like down to like the fact that they've both got some Mandalorian armor in there. Like I noticed the chest plate that he had that was definitely like Mando. He talks about Utapau. He was showing off that Utapau weapon and things like that.
I like I'm guessing the samurai suit.
That was interesting.
Because it shows that Darth Vader's helmet's based on something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even put the Darth Vader connection to it, but yeah, like it's an old civilization, because they're talking about like the coin that she's showing off, his assistant is showing off, is like thousands of years old. So
because
it could just
like
be from
Macquarie. Ralph McQuarrie and George Lucas wanted it to be like a samurai suit,
full on samurai, yeah,
which
definitely.
is cool for us in creating a movie,
Mm-hmm.
but in universe to have that sort of be an explanation of there were warriors and they were, and I guess sort of the the Night Sisters, or no, not the Night Sisters, the Inquisitor,
Yeah.
What's her name, Sarah
Sec-
Michelle Gellar,
she's one of second
sister.
sisters.
Yeah, like her
One of them,
helmet is
whatever
very
sister.
Vader-esque.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
I
can
think, I
kind of
mean, all
start
of
filling in gaps.
the Inquisitors, like you can tell that they work under Vader. Like they've all got that black. There's a mix of the plastic and the leather and everything. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
We should say hello to some people. We've got our regular live folks are here. Stevie's here. StreamYard still here as always.
StreamYard.
Jeremy Kelly doing his best to look like a bot, but not being a bot. We thank you, Jeremy, for telling everyone to do all the things, subscribing and hitting the bell and liking and doing all that stuff. Thank you, Jeremy.
He mentions how's everyone doing, how's everyone feeling.
I'm okay.
I was up for a bit last night. If you could tell by my puffy eyes. This was mentioned on Twitter, so I don't think I'm outside of the boundaries on saying this. Jeremy also going through the same thing I am.
Oh, dude.
he replied to me on Twitter saying that he's like, it sucks that you're doing this alone, so I figured I'd join the crowd. So.
That's really good of you, Jeremy. That's a dedicated fan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they're no fun, man. This is no fun. All right. So, Jeremy, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad hopefully you're doing okay.
Still suffering through.
Luch Johnny here.
Luch Johnny from Parts Unknown.
Yeah, Vactor's here. And Vactor was a guest on Holdo Maneuver last week with our friend Jay.
Awesome.
From Geeked Out Life. Check out that episode. It's a good episode.
I'll have to go back and check it out.
And Jeremy says it's totally fine to mention it. Yeah, we're both dealing with kidney stones. It's like super shitty, man.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. I mentioned to you this before, but I've done an X-ray, a sonogram, and a CAT scan since our last recording, which was Friday.
Yeah, that's a busy weekend of not fun things. I feel like
I've been put through the ringer, but I went to bed last night thinking I don't know if I'll be able to do the show. I don't know if I'll just tell James, can we do it tomorrow? I was like, can I just reach out to literally anybody to co-host for me? But around 4:00, I was like, okay, I feel good.
Good
and I
enough,
was pretty,
yeah,
it's pretty good to get up and watch the show, which I'm glad I did. Yeah. It was a really good episode.
Great.
I mean, this show, Ken Plume. I saw Ken Plume, former guest of the show, friend of the show. Ken Plume was saying that he's just like upset that the episodes are so short. And now we're on a weekly schedule.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, yeah. But I mean, at this point, we're used to the relatively short episodes. Like, I remember when Mandalorian first came out, everyone was kind of shocked at how short they were. But after a few seasons of that, Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, like, this is basically what I'm expecting now.
This one clocked in the longest, though.
Yeah,
this one was 40 minutes. So that was good. And there's a lot of story. There's a lot of threads going on in this.
This one opened it out a lot more. Like the first 3 were really tight and concise. Like we really only followed 2 characters and then a third near the end. This one we had all of those guys and then the introduction of a couple more, which I'm really interested about. If anything, like we got the least out of Cyril Khan in this episode. But what we did get was, again, like really enlightening for what his world is. And
so we all assumed he was ready to be a sort of indoctrinated into the Imperial,
primed and
officer.
Pulled up. Yeah.
I'm thinking not so much anymore. I'm thinking he might be a key member to the rebellion.
Do you think he's like the original Fulcrum?
Maybe. It seems like when he's standing there getting berated by the Imperial Guard, like I'm like, this guy's whole life was this job, and he just got told your job is meaningless and you're out and you suck and we don't want you. Like he's gonna rebel, right?
I see. What's her name? Deidre Miro from the Imperial Security Bureau. I feel like she's in a similar position, but in a higher ranking organization. She's that sort of that middle, like she's still got to answer to a lot of people. She's got superiors that talk down to her. They think she's like basically trying to go above her station. And I think the way that that's going is that she is going to keep doing her like pursuit. She's going to keep pursuing her leads, and it's going to lead her to Cyril. And then that's how he gets brought into it. I think that it's going to be these two hothead middle management, like, have been told, no, leave it alone. But they are so dedicated to their personal quests and their cause that they get together and they go off.
Also, I don't want these two. I'm the thing I'm liking about these characters, and I hope there's not some sort of twist where they become, oh, he's General Veers, or I hope it's nothing like that. Yeah. Like, I just like these as these characters, and we have a couple seasons to play with them.
Exactly.
But I just like everything is so far feels on the surface. It doesn't feel like they're keeping. It's not a mystery box.
No.
Yeah. The characters are the characters.
Yeah.
Mon Mothma is here. She's part of this timeline.
You know who she is,
so that works.
Yep.
They're not forcing anything. There's still like no mention of the Jedi. I was kind of looking. There may have been a lightsaber next to the spearhead in his thing, but it was unclear. There's something in this.
If that's how they force a lightsaber into the show, I'm fine with it, because it's not ignited, it's not shown off, it's no one's doing like some spins and flips with it.
And that's what I like about what Tony Gilroy is doing with this show. Because if he did have a lightsaber in there, he would have picked it up and ignited it. If it was,
they would have had to have shown it off.
The other creative team.
Yeah, of course. It would be like, hey, look, it's Mace Windu's lightsaber that we've retrieved from the depths of Coruscant. Like, it would have been, there would have been a close up on it. Like, they wouldn't have maybe named it, but like, it would have been there for the YouTube video people, essayists, to make their videos about all week.
So this whole thing, like, it's great because it's starting to become Star Wars. But it still feels restraint. Like, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like Star Wars yet. I'm sure this heist they're talking about to get this cargo ship. I'm sure it's going to feel like Star Wars, but it sounds really cool. It feels more like what I thought Rogue One was going to be.
Yeah.
They kept saying, "Oh, Rogue One's going to be a heist movie." World War II heist war movie. And it was more of a war movie. The heist was kind of simple. The heist, they kind of just walked in dressed like guys. They didn't do all kinds. There wasn't a scene where you're sitting in a model. Yeah. And I'm sitting there watching it, and oh my God, that kid, the dork with the, I love it. Who didn't want her touching
he built his scale model. Like, he's been there playing with his miniatures. He's got his train set.
He doesn't want to mess with the glue.
Yeah. I mean, I've painted up some Star Wars Legion miniatures in the past. He's just done that to the extreme. He's built an entire like battle table that he can play on later on.
Yeah, I like it's mostly like wood and rocks and stuff, but
it all looks really natural.
But the sort of temple,
it
looks like he spent a lot of time working on, like, he like got clay and molded those pieces. Because
he probably went out to the temple and watched it.
Like, he has a reverence for the
for sure,
for the thing. Especially I'm excited about that whole thing.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting visual.
Yeah,
they painted the picture of it really well.
But I like that there was two sides of it. The guy who's the lieutenant talking about, it's like 100 meteor showers or whatever he says. And he says, like, it's like this. He's kind of bought into the religious aspect of this whole event, whereas the kid's like, I've seen it, it's cool, but it's not.
It's that. All it actually is, and he gives the full scientific explanation of what it is. But it's really interesting. Like, if these guys, I'm assuming they're all locals to that planet, seeing their sort of small pocket of rebellion rising up, and how that's been planned, and how they are on a time limit, they are on a deadline, because they've got no chance of escaping other than during that natural cover that they get once every 3 years.
I mean, it's building it up like it's like this
It's
is
like
this is the
Ocean's
climax of the
11.
heist, and
It's
so
very
I'm
Ocean's.
really excited to see this
Yeah.
how this all looks.
And how it
Hopefully, it
goes
looks
wrong,
cool.
because it's gonna go wrong. Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
always gonna be something that goes wrong. Probably, you know, the appearance of a Star Destroyer, as we said, like something like that, maybe. Because
yeah,
when the ties did their sort of their flyby, which was a really cool visual, you can see them and hear them in the background before they duck
mhm,
down. She seemed surprised by that, like they weren't expecting those sorts of patrols. So
right.
something is stepping up. It's good.
But she still knew that they weren't going to be coming back.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, and it sounds like they sound like it's kind of cool. Like the fact that this fortress that they're attacking is so well constructed that it's not heavily manned.
Well, it's a dam, and it's in a stupid location
Yeah,
for anyone to ever attack it. So it's
yeah,
only got 40 guys. I
yeah.
think, like, just from the way they're describing it, it reminds me of that place in The Mandalorian where they went with Bill Burr to attack.
Right.
Like, so similar sort of location where, you know, there was pockets of rebellion there as well on the train on the way in, sort of thing, on the bus. So similar sort of thing where they've just sort of subjugated the locals.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. I'm really amped for this. And I guess that's where Ken comes in, where it's like you want to see, you can't wait for this moment. And we're probably not going to get it for another 2 episodes based
I don't know.
on
I think maybe
if we're doing these 3 story arc chunks.
Could be.
But again, like not the show. It's funny that it doesn't do cliffhangers and it doesn't end on like some weird high note. It kind of ends with like each episode ends with a character sort of like in a headspace.
Yeah,
As
that's a really
opposed
good
to
point.
like dangling off a bridge or any of those like classic serial cliffhangers. And the thing is also it doesn't feel like this could be a movie.
No,
Possibly
in 3-episode chunks, but
yeah.
even then, like the end of that third episode where they escape, like it's not like a big grand finale. Yes, it's a cap, it's a chapter end, but it's not the end of a book or a movie sort of thing. Yeah.
But I like. I mean, it's making me sort of like when I watch the show, I never know if there's going to be more. I'm like, they could cut this at any point, and then I have to wait another week.
Scenes. Yeah.
And so I'm like sitting there the whole time, like, oh, man, I keep getting sort of psyching myself out where I think like, oh, it's going to end already. I want more, and it's just going to end after this scene. This is going to be the last scene, isn't it? So I just sit there the whole time, like, oh no, this is going to be the last scene. I don't want it to stop. But I feel like Nicholas Brittle, who I will mention every episode, doing an amazing work on the music. It feels like he is sort of the guy letting us know we're coming down to the end of this episode.
Yeah,
like he's creating themes and music that are like, okay, we're coming to the end here,
and with the
so it gives you a little bit of a.
I feel like with the intro as well, like we're getting it depends on like how we're going to enter. So this one entered quite high tension because we're still like they're still escaping from the planet at the end of the last episode. So it's still got that main theme, but it's like intensified. Like it's definitely sort of ramped up more than it had been for those other 3 episodes. So we're getting that, and so that you're sort of thrown into it at that level, not build up to it.
The the security dude, is it Tim? Is that his name?
No. What is it? Cyril Khan.
Cyril. Yeah. Who's Tim?
Tim was the boyfriend.
Oh, the boyfriend. Yeah. So Cyril, there's the scene, his entire scene where he's going to his mom's house.
He had 2 scenes and they were both excellent. Like, I don't think did he say anything? I think he said hi, mother. I think that was it.
I thought that was it. But that whole scene of him going through Coruscant and landing and all that stuff, him in that airport, which looked amazing.
Yeah.
Like again, looked like a Mobius art. Like,
we've seen like the freight and the sort of the refugee airport in Attack of the Clones before, like, but this is a proper airport terminal. It's But still, he's
the
bought low because he's having to fly commercial. He's not flying like
yeah, and
he's
carry his
not
own bags,
being.
and yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But the that whole scene, it's all music,
Mm.
some sound effects, obviously, but it's mostly music. And the music during that scene, I'm like, Disney's got to get on this and start releasing these
Putting them out.
soundtracks.
Yeah.
Because when Mandalorian season 1 came out, they did a release per episode.
Yeah.
And I really, really want that now. I think they've released like the 3 main themes from the episodes. It's really bizarre.
It is. It feels like just a single, but with 3 different versions of the same track. Like, but
yeah,
it's kind of also the least interesting part of the soundtrack so far as well.
Right.
And
it's such a low key, like atmospheric type of score.
Yeah.
That I don't know if Disney thinks like, oh, is anybody gonna want to listen to it? I'm like, well, yeah, I do.
Yeah, this
like,
guy right here.
I'd pop that on vinyl.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I would listen to it on vinyl. A lot of, like I said, it reminds me of James Newton Howard and Michael Clayton a lot. It's not exciting.
Your Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross-ness to it as well. Like there's like quite an industrial soundtrack. Yeah.
And I like it's really good. That I might go put on that scene while I'm posting this show on the audio version just to listen to the music.
Put it on a loop.
It's so good. And I'm gonna go look into Nicholas Brittle because I know nothing about him.
Did something else? Was it Chernobyl? Someone, like, I was listening to another podcast, they were talking about it. He's done another show relatively recently that was like very well regarded, I believe. I can't remember if it's
see this music. I haven't seen Chernobyl, but from what I've seen, I could see this musical style working with that show.
There's been some crossover between like some of the writers and stuff like that and cast members, so it wouldn't surprise me if they sort of had jumped on and went the Chernobyl guys. So yeah, we got let's stick with Cyril, like just briefly, like when he shows up at his mum's, like, and she's surprised to see him, slaps him, and then hugs him, and it's that sort of thing. Like, it seems to me that he left to go and do that job, that's corporate security job, without her approval, without her wanting him to, and now he's sort of having to come back home, and what a humbling experience for him. Like, I think it is one of those, it's going to go 2 ways. It's going to go either he turns on those people because they don't understand him, he was just trying to help, and that's how they treat him, or it is a case of it intensifies him, which I think is, for me, it's where it will go based on his look at the end of episode 3.
I don't know.
The other two guys in the office, when they're all getting chewed out, though, like the supervisor who's just like, I wasn't even here, and they're like, yeah, that's the problem. Like, you weren't here. I mean, he's got a great argument. He was off giving his report to like the Empire, but he was just doing his job. And then the other guy, the dickhead one, who just sort of raises his hand and he's like, really? That's not going to happen. Like, don't even try and talk to me. It was great. It was so well done, I thought.
Yeah. All those Imperial officers around that table.
Just like closing it out, like wrecking the office, essentially.
These guys are no nonsense.
But yeah, then we got the introduction of the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, which I love. Like, that goes way back to some old EU stuff. We've had it in Rebels, we've had it in Clone Wars. I mean, Admiral Yularen is in he's in the original, he's in A New Hope. Like, he's the guy in the white suit with the mustache. Yularen, yeah. And then he was Anakin's admiral on his flagship and stuff like that. So he's a character that's been around for a long, long time. But it's cool seeing his people here,
right? Without showing him,
because he's like too important. It's like he'll report to the Emperor. These guys will report to him.
Yeah. Again, I like that these stand alone.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need. Yeah. And I'm sure that, like, if they mentioned him, I wouldn't have any problem with it. Like, there's other names. They do mention other names, like, later on in different scenes that I'm cool with the mention. But having this guy, it was Major Partagaz was the sort of the guy in command. Great name. Like, just feels like an Imperial stiff upper lip type.
Yeah, he's very Empire.
Very Empire-like. But I really enjoyed when he's chewing out his like subordinates, because it's he sends off the guy who was like essentially tattling on her, reporting her.
Yeah.
But then when they're alone, it's like a look. He's got 6 stations to look after. You've got 2. You're doing well. I like what you're doing. I'm going to keep feeding you work. You've got potential, but on this one right now, just lay low. Like there's nothing there yet. So I
love
thought
when he walked into the room with the 2 of them.
Yeah.
And the male officer just starts going, like, doesn't even say hello, just jumps the gun and just like berates her. And I was like, oh my gosh, this fucking guy.
That's it. Because you don't like, we know that they're all the bad guys, but you still, it's a well-written show. You want to support one of the 2 of them. And so that's how you get on her side over the other guy. Who we'd seen being a dick to everyone, basically. Everyone that he encounters, he's been a dick to. But Deidre Miro was her name. Seems to be like our main focal point for the Imperial Security Bureau. So I'm sure we'll see a lot more of her going forward.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where Sierra lands. I mean, the fact he's on Coruscant, he could either run into her, run into Mon Mothma, Luthen, who, by the way, the wig and the disguise and putting all that stuff together,
and the way he sort of has to turn it on as well. He's like, smiley. Oh, and then you see him sink because he's like, ugh, I hate everything about having to do this.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing, like that's the disguise, not
like they have to be. They said the inner circle. They refer to it as an inner circle of like just a few people, and like for him to go to these lengths just shows what kind of grip the Empire has. To the fact where he has to like wear a wig. He's got to wear a wig,
and he's got like a high end job as well. Like he's got everything about him is a cover. Like his entire existence is falsified. But he's clearly very well connected, and it feels at this point very, very much so like that. This is such early days of the rebellion. They're mentioned. The alliance is name checked, but if this is the same sort of time frame as Rebels, we know that there are rebels out there all over the place, but they are not all together as one big thing. So you've got Phoenix Group out in the Lothal sector doing their thing. You've got Saw and his partisans, who again are name checked in this episode. You've got the Alliance sort of like high command, who are going to be a collection of senators and stuff like that, working from the shadows. Who, there's spies.
I mean, they're in the heart. They're in the heart of the Empire. They're in the middle.
They're right in it. So, yeah.
So for them to have to like wear different clothes, like for Luthen to have to wear different clothes is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like the grip is so tight. Like they gotta really, like, to the point where they have to distract Mon Mothma's sort of secretary.
Her driver. Yeah. And who is new, and it's just, like everyone at the bank is being turned over and changed. So it's all Imperial loyalists. Like everyone that she encounters is new and not someone that she can trust. And I got the impression that her husband isn't someone that she can trust anymore. So like we've never met him before. I don't know if he's been name checked in books or anything. But Perrin, yeah, Perrin Further, I think the name was, and he's there having dinner parties for like literally the Emperor's aide. Like Sly Moore's the bold one from episode 3, who's like the innest of inner circles with Sheevy. So it's
we're gonna see that dinner party. We're gonna see it.
I hope so.
There's a shot in the trailer where she looks like she's at a dinner party and she's smiling, and as she's walking away off camera, she goes back to not smiling.
Oh, cool.
There's like one shot, so I think we're gonna get this dinner party, and why am I so excited to see this dinner party? Because it's just like so like it's such a weird.
But I mean, it's that promise from Empire Strikes Back of the dinner party with Vader and Han and Leia and everything. It's like, what happened there? Was that just a really awkward dinner?
But I want to see, like, I'm excited about Mon Mothma because we know so little from her, like in Return of the Jedi, and then she was taken out of Episode 3, and but she's been in like Rebels and Rogue One, but it's all very minimal,
and
so
always just this like all-knowing, overseeing, like leader type, as opposed to someone who's actually in the thick of it.
Yeah,
and I think the most in the thick of it that we ever saw was in Rebels, where they sort of like escorted her away from somewhere, didn't they?
Yeah,
at some point. So
right, but seeing her in the thick of this, sort of, she is on Coruscant. She is, we know she's trying to get something done to take these people out, and then for them to be in her house, it's gonna be like, I'm more excited about that conflict than the heist. Like,
me too.
Like, I want to see this. This is going to be really, really interesting.
And Jeremy mentioned it here, seeing super excited to see politics in Star Wars. Like, yeah, definitely, because it's not even just like politics where they're making policy and stuff. This is political espionage. Like, this is a side of Star Wars that we've not seen before. Like, there was some seeds and scenes of it in Episode 3, but they were cut out. And they're great scenes. Like, you can go back and watch them. We've talked about them like a few times, but they're really cool. And it's these seeds of rebellion. Mon Mothma talks about an ally, bringing in a new person into the inner circle. Luthen's all against it, but like, is it Bail? Is it
gotta
like
be Bail, right?
I mean, that's where my mind goes.
It isn't gotta be, but I feel like with Rogue One, where we see her and Bail together, it's kind of nice to see the origins of that. So I'm hoping we see that.
And we know that like he has no love for the Empire, but like maybe at this point in the story, they're saying he wasn't an active participant in the rebellion, but after this could be. If it's not, then I'm really curious to see who it is. We know that they have had dealings with Saw Gerrera, but it sounds like Saw Gerrera is already a thing and is already out there doing his own fight. So maybe he has some affiliation with these guys, but isn't completely tied to them. And Luthen just more and more feels like he is the linchpin. He's the one person who's dealing with everyone, all these different groups. He's the guy bouncing around the galaxy. He's probably got a different alias on every planet he goes to, and he's the one funding, or like he's laying these seeds. He's basically saying, if I light a fuse over here and then go and set off a bomb over there, they're not going to know where it's coming from. So he's the one doing all of that. It's cool seeing that person in the rebellion who probably by the end of the show won't make it out of this.
Yeah, I hope he does.
I mean, yeah, I do at the moment. But like, I mean, it could be at any point.
That's the problem where you watch like the whole time you watch like the Clone Wars, you're like, well, Ahsoka's not in the original trilogy, so she's going to be dead by then. No. And then she wasn't by the original trilogy. She left the Jedi Order. Or I guess Episode 3, she'd be dead by then. So I like it. Leave it open.
Yeah,
because you can explore the characters later.
He could be off sowing seeds of rebellion anywhere. Yeah, exactly. He could be doing anything. Like we only ever see the Rebel Alliance. We don't know what else is going on around the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah.
There was a few other mentions of things that we know about in the past. When he's talking to Cassian, Cassian's talking about, he was in this fight like when he was a kid. He was boots on the ground on Mimban, which we see that fight in Solo. In the mud. That's where Han was also stationed. But then Luthen turns around and is like, you weren't on the ground, you were in the kitchen. You were a cook. And so that's interesting. Like, so he knows a lot of intimate details about Cassian, and we don't know how he knows that.
Marva, maybe he has ties to Marva.
Yeah, possibly. Because again, like that's the other group that Cassian shouts out. He's like, what are you, like Alliance, Seps, or partisans? Like, so like there still are some sort of remnants of the Separatists out there, probably like fighting. Like some of the planets that were aligned with the Separatists probably are still have no love for the Empire. So it's interesting. But yeah, Mimban, it's one of those things that the Disney, like since the Disney have had it, they've mentioned it a few times, they've shown it a few times. it's like one of those conflicts. I think we saw some of it in the Clone Wars, or we saw some start of it in Clone Wars. It's been mentioned in books. There are these odd things that they reference quite a lot. The other one that I noticed, and I had to pause it because there was like 3 references all back to back to back, was when he gives him the necklace, and it was a Kuwati signet. Kuwait being the Imperial shipyards, Kuwait from like back in EU days. It's a signet with a bit of kyber in it, so lightsaber crystals, things like that. We know that it's going to be important in Rogue One. But then it was a symbol for it was there to honor their repelling of the Rakatan invaders, and that's Knights of the Old Republic. The Rakatan were like this alien species from thousands and thousands of years ago.
Okay,
it's like it's not important to the plot, but it's a little reference. It's an offhand thing.
Actual Easter egg.
Yeah.
And
it's not. Don't need to know. Yeah.
It's not Moochie.
It's no Moochie. But
which I like it so much that it's not, because the thing is, in the original Star Wars, Obi-Wan mentions the Clone Wars. Exactly. Not important. You understand the context. Cool. It's something you could expand upon later.
Or Han mentioning big Corellian ships. Things like that. It's exactly that. It's just
I don't need to know.
It's world building, if anything. Like, it's world building, but because they've got such an established world now, you can throw in a bit of world building that references something else, but it's not essential to the plot. Like, it
didn't matter to me.
No, exactly. It's if you know it, if you hear it, if you recognize those words, you get a kick out of it, but it's not gonna be something you need to pause to understand the significance of that necklace.
So we're gonna track this. I'm just calling it a kyber crystal.
I mean, it is basically, yeah.
I'm curious to know what the significance will be, why he has it. It's obviously important enough to inject into the story. I just can't wait to see why.
Yeah.
It should be interesting, and the fact that he gave it to him and was expecting him to return it.
That's it. It was down payment
if something happens.
And the fact that he was just like, look, if it all goes to shit and you need to get away, don't accept anything less than what, 20,000, I think he said for it. So it's like, it's not a cheap piece of jewelry that he's given him.
Right. But he says it's more priceless to him.
Yeah. Like he wants it back.
Which, I mean, listen, I don't want Jedi shit in here, but
he seems like he's going to know the significance of a kyber crystal. I feel like more than Cassian, he's going to know the kyber crystals.
But is it important to him because it's a rare thing he found, or is it something that he had?
Or
like, is it from is he possibly a Jedi? I hope not. I don't think we need it. But
I don't think so.
Is he like Bail Organa, where he
I think it's more like
help the Jedi at one point?
That I feel like he probably at one point did run an antique shop on Coruscant and was like kind of an upstanding citizen, but he, there's seen enough bullshit going on in the galaxy that he's decided to stand up and use his wealth, use his resources to help the fight, because it feels like he's bankrolling a lot of this, and I feel like he's trying to raise funds from outside sources, but he's going to do it on his own if he needs to. He's the one paying Cassian to be a part of this fight. Like, everyone else isn't getting paid. Which leads on to, Vel and her crew on that planet. Her space gorillas.
I like them. They're very, very suspicious. I mean, rightfully so. And I mean, we know like Cassian's a good guy, but at the same time, like, I'm glad they're so suspicious.
I feel like if there's going to be a betrayal, it's going to be from one of her team.
Right.
Because something's going wrong, and they basically they see they're out by turning on the rest of the team, and that's where it all goes wrong. But then they've got an Imperial officer on their side as well. Like, they've got the guy who shows up on the speeder bike, which I thought was really interesting. So one of the Imperial troopers is already sort of flipped. They flipped someone. I think that's everything that I've got notes wise. But the stuff with Mon Mothma and her husband, I thought was really, really interesting, because you would expect and you'd hope, like, we know that Bail's wife seems to be a good person who's like on the side of the sort of the rebellion and everything.
It's like Kellyanne Conway's husband. I forget his name.
Okay.
Um, but she was like freaking Trump's aide or something,
Right.
and her husband was like super like Democrat and would like just post shit from like the opposing side
That's great.
of his wife. So there's something, I think his name's George. I don't fucking care. But it's
It's
a similar thing. It's this weird like
if
uh,
you can have a healthy relationship and keep your politics out
he,
of it, then more power to you. But I feel like
he knew
when one of
he knew what he was doing
yeah,
when
oh
he
yeah,
invited those people over. And
yeah,
I mean, grounds for divorce. I'm assuming
I would think
she's gonna
so.
leave this guy.
Um,
I
I
feel
feel like
like
she's gonna be
once
run off.
I feel like once she's done with him, she's gonna be done with him, and then she's got no other sort of
Do you think we're gonna see the last days of her in the Senate, like her actually being an active senator before she is?
is she a senator in Rogue One?
I I think they I don't
I
think they
don't know.
refer to her as senator. She is in Rebels, but that's around the same sort of time as now in
Yeah.
this, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Because Bail Organa still seems to be involved
Bale is
by
up
the time Rogue One.
absolutely. He's definitely working from the shadows still, which makes me think that he's not been sort of fully brought in yet. Uh
He's
he's
got to be on the show, right?
I really hope so. I'd be
Like I
shocked if
feel
he's
like
not.
I want that to be the biggest quote surprise
Yeah.
cameo
Mhm.
character introduction. I
The
don't
only
need
reason you
anything.
don't put him in the posters and everything is because it probably is only like an episode or two, like nearer
Yeah.
the end, maybe.
Don't need young. I don't need Ewan McGregor or any of these guys. I don't need Darth Vader. I don't need Darth Vader. I don't want Darth Vader at all.
No,
Um,
it's not his sort of story. He's out there
I don't
hunting
even want.
Obi-Wan.
I don't even want a hologram of the Emperor. I think
I,
maybe Krennic, maybe.
I think Masameda, like Masameda in the Senate, like so the
Yeah,
basically it's a case of the Emperor doesn't go to the Senate anymore. Why would he? In the
yeah.
public eye, he's deformed and
He's
scarred
a
from
yeah.
the Jedi's betrayal and attack.
He's off
But
working on the Death Star.
and he
Doesn't have
doesn't it's
time for it.
beneath him. The actual like the workings of the Imperial Senate are so beneath him. So essentially his mouthpiece, which is Masameda,
Masmeda.
is
Yeah,
going to be the one who's sort of stood in the middle of the dais. Um,
that'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
I'm
Like
good with that.
I'm all good with bridging episode 3 with episode 4 or Rogue One.
Yeah.
But I think that's as far as we should go.
Hmm.
I don't want. I mean, listen, I love Solo, but even like if Alden Ehrenreich were to show up, I don't want it. I don't want any of it. I don't want Chewbacca. I don't want any.
We don't need it.
I don't C3PO and R2.
We
Even
saw
though they
we
could
saw him
totally
in we
fit in
saw
this
him.
timeline,
Yeah, we've already seen them this
um,
year. We don't need to see him again.
we're good.
Yeah.
But
If we
but I
do, it'll be
just
when we might see if we see Bale and like the Tantive 3 or 4, whichever one that he's on at this point, like
yeah.
they might be there. But again, we don't
Oh,
need
I'm
it.
okay with seeing that, by the way.
Oh yeah, show me the ship, sure.
That's like my second favorite ship in Star Wars.
Show me
I
Captain
love it.
Antilles.
Yeah.
Another cat, like the fourth or fifth different casting of Captain Antilles.
Right.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see
But
what we do see or what we don't. Like, because so far, I mean, I don't have any more expectations. Saw is the only thing that we know we're still gonna get.
and he got name dropped in this episode.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's
think the
that's
party
fine because it makes
and
sense to
Sly Maud.
Cassian's
Sly Maud
story.
was interesting because that's a character that we've seen in episode 3. We're assumably gonna see that dinner party next week, so we're gonna see that. If that character is as
Which
creepy
one's
as
Slymore?
she's bold. She's at the
Oh yeah, yeah,
opera
yeah.
scene.
That's right.
He's one of the ones he says, "Leave us."
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I remember her.
look creepy as hell. Looks scary. So if she's
Yeah.
there, it is basically intimidating Mon Mothma on behalf
Yeah.
of the Emperor. Then great.
But we don't. Will Saw interact with Andor?
I
Because
don't
it
think
feels
so.
like in Rogue One, it's their first meeting.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think with Luthen, sure, but I don't
Yeah.
think it will be. And I think maybe if Luthen has a conversation with Cassian about him, then it makes sense why when Saw Gerrera's name comes up, Cassian perks up. He knows the name. He knows who Saw Gerrera is.
Right.
But he's this guerrilla fighter. No one knows where he's hiding. No one knows how to get in contact with him. That's why they need Bodhi in Rogue One, isn't it? It's just for the contact. So
yeah, I really like this show because it's unpredictable. Again, we know Cassian's fate, so that's kind of a bummer. But
we don't know how he gets there. The journey is more important. Yeah.
But I find this sort of I'm really fascinated between the time of with the time between episode 3 and episode 4. And,
it's weird, isn't it? Because for as much as we sort of say we want to move things forward, we want new things.
Yeah.
Like this is a time frame. There's a lot in there, but there's like 5 different shows in there now at this point. 5 different shows, 2 different spin-off movies. Like there's a lot has been done in this 20-year gap between 3 and 4, but they're managing to tell a different story with each of them, which I think is really interesting. It's not the same thing redone. Like we said about not wanting to see Darth Vader. I'm thinking back to our episodes when we talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi and how Darth Vader comes out, and that's like Darth Vader doesn't operate in the public eye up until like Empire Strikes Back. He is this boogeyman for the Emperor, for the Empire as well. Like he's off living in his castle, and he's just this specter of a thing that might come and get you in the middle of the night if you do something really bad.
Yeah, and in Star Wars in 77, he's presented as sort of Tarkin's heavy.
Yeah, it's like
Tarkin's muscle.
The other Imperials don't really respect him in the way that they should.
Yeah.
Probably because for 20 years, that's been his role.
Yeah. Go sit in your castle.
Yeah. Go your sorcerer's ways. It's exactly that. So seeing more of, I love seeing all these Imperial officers. Like seeing the ISB is really cool.
Yeah.
It's like we've seen space cops. We know that all space cops are bastards. And now we're seeing the space Gestapo, basically. Like this is the KGB, and they're even more bastards.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. The character Deirdre reminded me of Izard from the old X-Wing books, just only because she's looks like she's a blonde Imperial Security Bureau officer who seems quite hard edged. So
I think we're good on this episode. I don't think we
are.
Have to go a full hour.
No, we can wrap up.
Again, I can't say enough about this show, the music, the direction it's going, and it's I love it. It's really do.
We're in that point now that we said last week. Like we only had 5 days to wait by Friday. Now we've got a full week. We've got these short episodes, but I think because if they stick to this sort of 3 episode arcs, we're gonna have 4 of them this season, and then we know that season 2 is each 3 episodes is a snippet from 1 year of the rest of the time building up. So we're going to get time jumps. We're going to get tighter, smaller arcs that I feel like those ones will each feel like more of a movie. But these ones so far, like I like that way of doing it. So if these 3 are the Cassian side of that, and then we start integrating, maybe the stories start converging a little bit more for the last 2 arcs. It's good. It's a good way of doing it. It feels good. It's really more sure. It's a different show. It just feels very different.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like this whole time we've been doing live action Star Wars and covering these series, it's been like Book of Boba Fett. It's great. I love it. It's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan, great. Love it. It's Star Wars. Fills the gaps nicely. It really.
We were glowing about Obi-Wan. Like we loved Obi-Wan.
So great. But this show, I absolutely love it more than those others. It's such a good show.
Level. It really is.
It's a good show, and I like that it's
a good show that isn't just a good Star Wars show. It's a good show. Take all the Star Wars away, and it's still a really good show.
I like that it's not full of excitement. It's not a fight a week. It's not a different location. Well, we kind of get different locations each week, but it's not like this. There's no fanfare. It's literally we have a story. This to me feels like I'm reading an EU book and enjoying it.
And we're jumping a couple of chapters. Yeah, we got like 3 or 4 focal point characters. We'll drop in. We'll see a couple of scenes of them each week, and we'll get out. It's great.
It's not
I love
flashy. It's so not flashy. The camera movements are very simple.
Does Stevie's asking, does every episode end on Cassian's face? I think possibly so far they have.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the first 2 episodes.
One of them ends with him like doing the power walk.
That's the 3rd episode.
That's the second episode. Third episode, he ends. They end on the ship. Yeah, second episode's the power walk. Third episode's on the ship. Yeah, first episode, probably. I can't remember.
Not sure. But yeah, it's super well done. I really like it the way it's shaken out, because I watch these at 5:30, 6 in the morning, and it's nice to not wake up to just noise.
Yeah,
like just I don't.
Yeah,
it just feels so good. It's so,
I mean, when they start
so
jumping off of dams and blowing everything up, and there's a big light show of like
goes.
lasers going off in the sky next week, then
right. I guess our last episode we had
that was a big battle
shootout.
Yeah,
with the things coming down and up and stuff. But
I do like the quiet. You've had 2 episodes building to it. At that point, you're ready for the release, because the tension was so goddamn high at the end of last week.
That morning of the Kenobi finale, where it was like throwing rocks and stuff, I'm like, oh, this is crazy, this is awesome. But
I need to go back to sleep after this. Like,
I do like the quiet
yeah
nature of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the general public thinks of it, if they think it's boring.
I haven't had many bad things.
I haven't listened to any podcasts about it. But
the complete caveat, like the podcasts and stuff that I listen to, I tend to feel similarly to anyway. It's why I listen to them. Yes, it is an echo chamber, but so what? Like,
I mean, it's the same reason why you mute certain types of people on Twitter.
Exactly. You find the people who you like listening to, but I also like getting critical analysis. I think it was Mark in the comments, we were talking about Dave Gonzalez and like Joanna Robinson and their coverage of everything they're now on the Ringer, which is owned by a company that we don't really like very much. But also, again, sidebar, they were slagging off Joe Rogan the other day, so I was a big fan of that. So yeah, like they're really good because they can give a critical analysis, but also they love the things that they love, like unashamedly, like wholeheartedly. They will gush about the things that they love, but then in the same episode, they can still talk about things that maybe didn't work so well.
Like straight up AK-47s.
Straight up AK-47s, but
that's like the only issue I had so far with this show, and it's like so minimal. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, go find those people who are positive. Go listen to Hold'em Maneuver.
Hold'em Maneuver, yeah. Like,
they're great.
There's enough of us out there. They're like Star Wars fandom. I hate the word fandom because of the connotation that it has these days, but like it's not all gross. Like, there are dozens of us out there that are doing good things. Yeah. Thank you for everyone for dropping by. Mark only dropped by briefly just to say hi. Tristan's just done the same thing. But glad to see everyone here.
It's early. It
is early, and Tristan, I think, is possibly at work because it's not so early over here.
But yeah, you can watch it on your phone.
Exactly. Well, not everyone has a job like mine. I don't know what you're talking about. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week talking about episode 5.
Oh, I'm excited.
Tweet at us this week what you think episode 5 will be called. That's a little game that you can all do if you're watching this in the week. Tweet us your guesses as to what episode 5's title will be, and if anyone gets close, we'll send you a no prize. Until then, where can people find us, Ralph?
Oh yeah, let's do all this stuff here. Oh man, if you guys knew this
the layout, it's just the layout. Like, it's all there, it's all really handy, but the layout of it doesn't seem like the most intuitive thing. There it is.
Right, the thing where I pressed like the videos are in a different section, and like
it'd be nice if it was customizable.
If you were to see the back end of this broadcast, there's plenty of blank area where they could put one set of controls and another area where they can set another set of controls, or just have it all visible. But I can't
have
see
it all
any
piecemeal so
comments
you
right now.
You can customize it and drop it around where you want it. You can make it your own desktop. Would be lovely.
I can't see any of the comments right now because I'm on the section that has this banner.
I got it covered, don't worry.
And also I can't see our closing video, which is why I'm always looking over here when James says punch it, is because I have to open up a separate thing to find that. Like, make it come. StreamYard, you're here every week. I know you're watching.
This is what happens when we have a shorter episode. We can start talking about the weird back-end stuff. Come on, StreamYard, sort your shit out.
Right. Sort our shit out.
Sort your shit out so that we can sort our shit out using your service. We love you though. You're very good. You're very easy to use. Mostly.
Drop the price too.
Yeah,
you guys,
nice.
I'm sure you're making that money.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back next week at possibly a different time. So yeah, subscribe and listen. We might have a guest next week. We're hoping to have a guest next week. But yeah, keep an eye on all the social stuff. It'll all be there. But yeah, until then, don't give in to hate.
Celebrate the love.
Punch it.